So in this video, I want to show you how to make use of this node module. As you can see, I have my editor open here. I'm using Visual Studio Code, but please feel free to use the editor of your choice. Before we get started, I want to show you a very quick demo of how the module actually works. So I've created a very simple page, as you can see here. So I want you to make sure that your MongoDB server is up and running. I'm going to use a new database. So I type use GFS test database DB. This is going to be the database that we're going to use in this video. So I hit return and we switch to that database. You can simply see the collections by typing show collections. And these are the collection that we've got: features row, fs.files, and so forth. So let's see if we've got any file in our database. So I use db.fs.files.find and .pretty, and as you can see, it is empty. There is no file. So let's go and put some file into our database. We're using the put file function. So I use select npm.png and I open it, and then I click on put file to send the picture to the server. So let's get back to our MongoDB database and see if the file has been added to our database. So I execute the same command and you can see the file has been added to our database. The file name is npm.png, the picture, and the other information. So let's go and add another file, this time a different type. Let's add a PDF file. And I select it and I say put file, getting back to our database, and you can see the file has been added. We've got the picture and the PDF file. Let's see if we can retrieve the file from our database using the getImageById. So the only thing that you need to provide is the actual object ID of that file. So I copy that, I paste it here, and you can see that we retrieve the file successfully. And also you can get the actual document by using getInfoById. Again, the only thing that you need to provide is the ID of the file. So I paste it here, and we retrieve the actual document. You can use remove file if you want to remove that file. And getting back to our database, you can see that the file has been removed and we've got only the PDF file. And you can use remove all to remove all the files. So getting back to our editor, first and foremost, we're going to see how we can install the module. Type npm install and the name of the package, which is gridfs-easy, and -- save if you would like to add it to your package.json file, and hit return. So now I want you to create a file wherever you want. I call it db.js file. We're going to write our code related to our database in this file. So the first thing I want to do is to require mongoose. And the second thing that you need to require is the actual module, gridfs-easy. Once you've done that, we're going to create our URI we're going to use to connect to our database. So I create a variable and the URI going to be mongodb ://localhost. Since my MongoDB server is running on my local machine, I'm using localhost. If your MongoDB server is running on a remote machine, please provide the IP address. And then the port number, I'm using the default port, which is 27017. This is the default port. And last but not least, the name of the database. The name of the database was gfs-testdb. And then we're going to connect to our database using mongoose.connect, providing the actual URI. And we're going to export our module. We're going to export it since you can use it everywhere in your application. So one thing that I want you to take into consideration is that make sure that you establish a connection to your database successfully, and then go about using this module. Otherwise, your application is gonna fail. So to do so, I'm using promise. So I use new promise and a function with 2 arguments, resolve and reject. And also, I'm using mongoose event handlers to make sure that I've established a connection to my database successfully. So I use mongoose.connection.onConnected and the callback function. At this point, we can make sure that we establish a connection to our database successfully, so we can initialize our module. The only things that you need to provide is the mongoose. So use var gridfs-easy, new gridfs-easy, and mongoose. And finally, we're going to resolve. And let's save the file and start our application. npm start. And if you receive the message connected correctly to gridfs-easy, you're connected. So now let's see how we can make use of this promise in other files. Now once you create another file, I tend to call it gfs-router. And in this file, we are going to require that db.js file. So var gfs-easy equal require the file that we created, the db file, db.js file, and .then, and we can make use of that promise, providing the function. And now you can make use of the various methods that we provided for you. For example, get base64 by ID, get info by ID, and so on and so forth.